As soon as I saw this video on my TV, the first 5 seconds I said, I have to make this video. As a person that is always looking to expand their knowledge, their wisdom, and to learn more of what it is to live on this planet, in this universe, I had to check this out. Plus, we haven't seen What If Alt Hist in a very long time. It's so long that I forgot the name of the channel, but this is a pretty good channel. So let's go ahead and check this out. What If Alt Hist shattered the glass of modernity? I think this will be a cool video. Also, check out my scents. We have fragrance. It's apple pie, apple cinnamon, cinnamon apple pie. So if you like any of those three, they're all together and they smell good. Check them out.
Has infinite dimensions. I don't really mean that in a
As soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, I'm in.
Scientific sense, where we currently exist in a three-dimensional space. At least that's our current paradigm. Rather, I mean dimension as a trait something has. For example, when you meet a person, you can assess them for their moral quality, which is a certain important dimension of behavior, their intelligence, happiness, or their class, sex, or racial type. For each, they are dimensions of their persona, which change how their lives work. In order to understand a person, you need to have a comprehensive understanding of how they can relate to their context. This is so complex as to be impossible to do perfectly, yet we have to do it all the time to survive in the world. I've been thinking more and more lately about why people don't notice what the natural endpoint of their actions are. This relates to Aristotle's concept of the telos, or that all things have a natural direction they flow towards without even thinking. For example, almost all things, even the inanimate like hurricanes, nations, or glaciers, will without even thinking try to expand themselves against other things, even if unconsciously. Governments will naturally try to extend their power, and the sexes will try to mate with the other. However, it always blows my mind when the consequences for an action are completely obvious, and yet people are dumbfounded by the result. The American government printed the most money of any era of history, and then we're shocked when we see inflation. The inflation should be way, way worse than what it is now. People eat unhealthy food and are shocked when they get fat. People spend their whole lives in sin and godlessness with no interaction with meaning, and then they're shocked when they feel unfulfilled. For years, I've struggled to learn what living a happy life truly means. You think it's empty words until you realize what it's like to not live with it. Most people I've known in my life have not been happy, and as a child, I vowed to construct my life in a way where I could be happy as an adult. This has been a harder journey than I could have imagined, that I've asked the wisest people I know in my life. These are the people I respect, often very accomplished, like CEOs, politicians, artists, and thinkers. I asked them, how does
That's interesting that he chose those, and he said CEO first. So, like, CEOs are always different, man. I've met and I've seen plenty of CEOs that act completely differently, right? But there is just this one drive that I've seen in every entrepreneur, every CEO, and it's their ability to just keep going with whatever it is that they believe in, right? They want to have the best company. They want to create the best product. They want to do drop shipping. They want to do whatever it is they want to do. They go out and they do it, and they do whatever it takes. And 9 times out of 10, it involves delegation. So they get people around them that helps make their dreams legitimately come true. And not a lot of people have this drive. So like for him to say CEOs are as the first thing, yeah, I 100% believe it, man. CEOs, like those are people that are legitimately leading whatever it is that they want to come happen. And it happens.
does one live a happy life today as a young man? The most black-pilling thing is that no one's really given me a good answer so far. This video is an endpoint of my search for this question. In order for us to be happy as a society and the individuals in that society, here are 12 assumptions we have to shatter as a culture. These are 12 ways that we see the world that's tearing us down to misery and hell in real time. This is a video, The Soul of Modern Civilization. As you will see, I choose to
I knew
shatter the glass.
Bro, I knew as soon as I put on this video on my TV, I was like, bro, I got to make this a reaction. Like, legitimately. And the way I be looking at my channel is like, yes, of course, if I drop a neuro video, it's going to get hella views. If I drop a VTuber video, it's going to get hella views, right? But I'm making this video because even if it doesn't get a lot of views, doesn't matter, because I know for a fact we're going to be able to deliver amazing quality and legitimately help people on their journey, man. This is a great video. Hit the like button because I already know it's amazing, bro. Let's go.
And restart, since I see no other path where we survive both as a culture and as individuals.
Let's talk about it. This is a tough conversation to have. Get your water. What if alt-hist? Anthropology, history, philosophy, geopolitics. The video I shattered the glass. Yay!
Our perception of the world is largely an illusion held together by
Damn, bro, your mic quality just went off the deep end, bro.
Biased media that intentionally obfuscates things to keep up the mirage. Thankfully, ground news.
Okay, that's why. I'm like, damn, why the audio change so fast? Let's talk about ground news. I used ground news before, but then they wanted me to pay to get rid of the shit that I didn't want to see.
Get a clear view of the world. Ground News isn't a news outlet. It's an app and website that pulls in related coverage of thousands of news sources so that you can see the same story get covered across the political spectrum. Every story comes with a breakdown of each source's political bias and ownership so you can see how these factors affect how they frame the news. For example, let's dive into Texas's decision to remove over 1 million voters from its rolls. Ground News found more than 70 articles covering this with barely any reporting coming from leftist sources. Of the ones that are reporting on this, NBC is calling this move a chilling message, while The Independent seems to hint at voter suppression. However, on the right, the Epoch Times emphasizes Texas's removes non-citizens and deceased to prevent any fraud. I really love their blind spot feed, where you'll find more stories the left are covering, like California lawmakers passing a bill that could make undocumented immigrants eligible for home loans. News like this can really change the outcome of elections. And
if you're an undocumented immigrant, how can you get a home loan? You're undocumented. What? I don't know.
Trajectory of this country.
Somebody let me know in the comments below. I don't know.
I've been working for Ground News for years, and I actually do use them as a service in my life, and they've been a great company to work with. And go to ground.news/whatif or scan my QR code on screen to see what else the mainstream media isn't showing you. My viewers save 40% on the same plan I use for unlimited access to all their features. Not only would you be supporting my work, you'd also be supporting an independent platform that respects conservative views.
And also, while you're doing that, man, check out your boy KhunShawn. We got a scent collection, apple cinnamon pie. I got candles, I got body wash, and also it will be helping my friend because my friend is being screwed by a capitalist society, and now they owe $3,000 in debt in something that they shouldn't owe. So now I'm trying to help them. So help me, help them, help everybody if you can. I appreciate it. Back to the video.
I don't know what to tell you. You're either old enough to be removed from the main generative force of the society, or your head is buried 1,000 miles into the sand. I would say, what evidence would you need to see that our society is terminally sick on a spiritual basis? I mean, I can point to dozens of different things, between the skyrocketing deaths of despair, crippling mental health issues, depression, or loneliness. All of these are at the worst points ever in human history. I'm going to be more holistic, though. The democratically elected Western governments are trying to commit civilizational suicide. Many countries in Northern Europe are openly championing degrowth and deindustrialization as their dominant political agenda. Every major Western government is importing millions of immigrants against their own economic self-interest for the express purpose of replacing the local white population. Nearly 100% of new jobs in America since COVID and in the last few years have gone to immigrants. Diversity quotas have completely destroyed the West's economy, so much so that nearly all job openings in the top 500 companies for the last few years have gone to non-whites. Keep in mind, white people are around 75% of America's genetics, and the number is higher in Europe. So being anti-white is just being suicidal for the West. The entire West's cultural forms have been taken up by a church, which rationalizes every single facet of life into an inchoate nihilism, which only pushes for its own destruction. You can add this to the birth rate, which is at the lowest rate ever in history. The birth rate today is crashing almost everywhere in the world, faster than the fastest UN or government projections could have guessed. Keep in mind that these people and these statistics have really wide...
Bro, those are legitimately just jumping off of a cliff. Like, that's legitimately like everybody's saying, hey, we're just not going to have kids. Like, simultaneously, people are just saying we're not going to have kids. Wow.
Standard deviations. So what's going on now borders on the apocalyptic. This is the greatest crisis of our time, while at the same time something almost no leaders or regimes around the world take seriously. A quarter of Gen Z Americans think it's morally wrong to have children, and the numbers are even higher in Northern Europe. I've talked about all of these points in previous videos, in which the one I would like to recommend the most is my video on the psychological Black Death.
If you guys want me to check out that video, let me know in the comments below.
However, what all of this underlies is that we are a profoundly psychologically or spiritually sick culture. The most that has ever existed that I can see so far ever in human history. Furthermore, this sickness is killing us very quickly. One of my favorite historians, Carroll Quigley, writing around 1960, when ranking the West's social institutions, said that the West's great weakness was its lack of religion. He said that if the West couldn't solve its failed religious issue, that no matter how wealthy or technologically advanced we were, we would see the rise of a cancerous anti-religion, which would destroy Western civilization. I'm so glad nothing like that's ever happened. One of the rules I have is that before I judge someone, I try to listen to what they're really saying, or often literally saying. This sounds profoundly stupid and simple, but almost no one actually does it. For example,
that's absolutely true. Like, even like, I meet people all the time and I just let them speak. And I just let them speak so much until they eventually say, well, what do you think? And honestly, if I were to time them, which I don't, it takes around like 20 minutes of them straight talking before they ask somebody else about what they think.
Modern Western women publicly state their complete contempt for men all the time. Just look at any media. The left publicly states their complete self-loathing of their own society and their heritage. This means they really loathe themselves. They believe this so strongly that they also literally state that they support civilizational suicide. Hamas literally says, from the river to the sea. The Chinese Communist Party literally says it wants to recreate the old Chinese empire from the Qing dynasty. Iran literally calls America the Great Satan. Modernity has this very profound naivete, which I can't understand, but is probably our greatest weakness. We let the Marxists take over our institutions while they literally publicly said they want to destroy everything we love. The British and French appeased Nazi Germany when the Nazis also literally said they wanted to genocide Eastern Europe for their Lebensraum. This is one of the stupidest mistakes we make as a society. I partly blame social feminization. Dozens of scientific...
I like to join in on the conversation and say misinformation is a big reason why a lot of these bad representatives get into power. Like, there's so many narratives being driven all the time, and 9 times out of 10, the narrative comes from them.
Scientific studies, as well as just the common wisdom, is that women are attracted to dark triad traits like Machiavellianism, sociopathy, and narcissism. The stereotype goes that women are attracted to bad boys who treat them terribly. Literally read any female romance novel or even ask women about the guys they've dated, and this is just obvious. Thus, it makes sense that a feminine society would have an unspoken, deep attraction for those who wished its ill and completely reject its values. You can call me a misogynist all you want, but am I actually wrong? I don't know why others can't see this, since it's so ridiculously obvious to me.
Hold on, let me listen to it again.
sense that a feminine society would have an unspoken deep attraction for those who wished its ill and completely reject its values.
That's definitely on a psychological level. I don't know. Me personally, I haven't seen it, but I also like try and just do my own thing.
You can call me a
So
misogynist.
I can't really weigh in and say if he's being misogynist or not, or I don't know. Like the women gravitate towards me. I, if I was to really think about it, like, do they like bad boys? I've definitely seen a lot of cases of women going with men that are bad boys, but it's like, why are they with them? And a lot of the times, from what I've seen, like they're with these guys because they form a different type of protection. Like the nice guy, you don't really show that you can protect them. And a lot of women, they want to be protected, not necessarily like physically. Oh, I got to make sure I have a strong guy around me to protect me, but you got to be able to show some type of masculine trait that would give the personification that yes, you are willing to protect them. Easier said than done. And not every guy does that, nor do they want to do that. They rather show something else, like how intelligent they are or how successful they are with business and whatnot. And that doesn't always necessarily make women interested. You know, women play the game differently and they play it so differently. Like the only way to find out is if you ask them. And even if you ask them, they might not tell you the truth. And they might not necessarily even be lying to you. They just might not be able to explain it as well. So yeah, man, everybody plays the game differently.
Misogynist all you want, but am I actually wrong? I
I'm
don't
not
know
sure
why
if you're
others
wrong.
can't see this since it's so ridiculously obvious to me. I just listen to what people say and then form an assessment from it. I see it on the right too.
Yeah, it's your perception of what people are saying to you.
In which
But that your perception does not necessarily mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's wrong either.
moderate conservatives will
Keep an
often
open
work with
mind.
radical rightists, where I tell them, you know, if those radicals win, they're going to put all of us in camps. So why are you trying to appease them? When I hear
That's
leftists
interesting.
or political radicals in general, I can see that they're in a tremendous amount of pain. Sure, there are always
So how do we
sociopaths in a
fix the pain?
population who
How do
will
we fix
naturally
it?
like to predate off others, but they're less than 20 to 5% of the population naturally. When you see most political radicals, you're seeing a person whose soul has been so consumed and chewed up by the cruelty and dehumanization of the world. In order for the West to elect suicidal governments, our entire society must be in so much psychological pain as to make suicide seem like the good answer. That's how all suicides happen psychologically. If
That's
you
sad.
read suicide notes, the common unifying thread is the word useless, where suicide occurs when people feel as if their lives have no natural meaning and they're not useful or needed by anyone. The absence of silence in our
So
culture has always weirded me out. I was raised a Quaker, or a sect of Christians who meditate in silence as a way to
Quaker.
reach God. Silence is sacred in Quakerism, and this was an attitude I grew up with. Silence is very important to me and why I've stopped living in cities. The sacredness of silence is that it gives space for the mind to unwind, in which
That's
it can
true.
start to introspect. However,
Yes.
our civilization does every single thing it possibly could in order to avoid introspection. We constantly
That is absolutely true.
barrage ourselves with hedonism, stimuli,
Yes.
screens,
It's that
excitement,
damn
ideology, buzzwords, amongst other things, in order to avoid ever thinking more deeply. It's even true on a macro level, in which our academic, religious, and spiritual institutions avoid thinking about anything deep. You go to church and they don't talk about the spirit of God, rather its outward manifestations. I don't think they often even believe that there's an inner spirit of God. The philosophy our civilization propounds, or postmodernism, openly rejects any meaning or truth in the world. This reconciles our lives to a meaningless hell for our entire civilization. The insane thing is we don't ever talk about this. How come the sexes hate each other? People don't want to have children. Our civilization is committing suicide while people lack any meaning, but the philosophers and greatest minds of our people aren't actively trying to understand and combat at this. Even conservatives don't take this seriously at all. In order for our society to survive, we need to take the souls of the people involved seriously. The question is, how do you fix a society dying of a spiritual or psychological plague? Well, the good thing is that I've developed the best answer I can. Part
Okay,
2,
let me hear it.
reprogramming. One of the
That's
things which
possible.
complicates this equation is that human life doesn't fit into easy boxes. If you were to ask me whether or
Absolutely.
not you want to heal your soul, or you should target your material life, your religious beliefs, or use a therapist, I would reply with yes. One of the best recent books on psychology to come out is Lost Connections by Johann Hari. The thesis of the book is that rather than being a chemical imbalance of the brain, depression is caused by your life actually being terrible, stemming either in some part from potential causes being loneliness, poverty, lack of meaning, beauty, and many other things. The fact that this is not completely obvious to our society blows my mind. Of course, someone's psychology is an outgrowth of their environment. This is something Charles Taylor talked.
Absolutely. It's a product. You're a product of your environment, which is why I always moved if I don't feel comfortable or feel like I am able to grow. And of course, not everybody is able to do that, but I feel like a lot more people are actually able to do it than the ones that actually pursue in doing it, right? Because it's an unknown, right? Some people would rather legitimately be at home and be upset, and because it's more comfortable than just packing up their stuff and moving somewhere else and trying a new life. Like legitimately, if you take all of the things that you really need, put it in a backpack and then leave somewhere else, there's a chance that you might find success somewhere else. But because it's an unknown factor, because it's such a risk, nobody wants to fucking do it, right? Nobody wants to do it besides a small minority of people. And for some reason, these minority of people just end up becoming successful in whatever it is that they want to do. Look, I don't know how else to say it besides just do it, because that's legitimately one of the best and healthiest advice. If you have a feeling of doing something, doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't even necessarily mean moving somewhere else, right? It could be writing a book, it could be making a song, it could be doing a painting. You can legitimately do it, but 80% of the success is just putting it into action. If you say, I want to do this, there's no, I will wait for the right moment, the right time. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, and we were having the same conversation, legitimately having the same conversation about how his aunt for 30 years was talking about how she wanted to move to Italy. For 30 years, 3 decades, this woman said she wanted to move to Italy. But my friend right in front of me at age 27 packed up his stuff and he moved to Germany like that. And he even had the greatest idea of saying, hey, Germany or Austria is really close to Italy, like comparatively so compared to being in the States, right? And he was legitimately working out a way. Sorry, my camera had to refresh. He was working out a way for her to have her dream and him to like continue pursuing his journey. And for some reason, she didn't do it. And there's multiple theories, right? There's multiple theories why people don't do things. One of mine that I subscribe to are people are more scared of failure than they are of success. And it's easier and to sit and say, "Oh, I could do this," versus actually trying. And if you succeed, that's amazing. But more people are like, "Ah, what if I fail?" And what my buddy said was he has a philosopher friend, and his philosophy was it's not that people are scared to fail, but people are more interested in the imagination of their success. They rather imagine how great their life would be in Italy, in France, in Thailand, wherever, right? They have the imagination, which is more beautiful than the actual work of getting there. Because if you were to actually move to Italy or move wherever, yeah, you're going to have to run into visa stuff. You're going to have to check out the passport situation. You're going to have to learn about the actual nature of the environment. You know, do they have natural disasters? How is the crime rate? How is the internet? How is this? And guess what? You figure it out when you get there, right? You can do some prep work. Go ahead, Google some shit, chat GPT, what's it like to live, whatever. You're gonna have legitimately thousands of results that tell you what it is before you even get there. But for some people, that's not enough. So what are you waiting for you to actually achieve whatever it is that you decide that you want to pursue in your life? What is it? And environment is a big cause. But for some reason, even though if you're in a toxic environment, for some reason, some people would like to stay in that toxic environment because it is, even though it's toxic, it's comfortable to sell all your, like, if you're working in a dead end job, you hate your job, bro. I'm the type of person that will quit that shit, move somewhere else, do something else. But other people, they're like, oh, I have this, I got bills. Like, bitch, everybody got bills. So what are you talking about? Right? You're not the only human being that's ever faced doubt in their life. The difference is if you doubt, you still can overcome doubt and achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve or attempt to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. I'm not going to sit here and guarantee you're going to be successful with doing something, but not doing something will lead to the same result of nothing happening. Nothing changes if nothing changes. But I'll let you guys figure it out for yourself, man. That's your journey to go through. And if you guys are enjoying the video, man, hit the like button. Let's go.
Talks about in his book, A Secular Age, which is really about comparing the medieval psychological view of the world to the modern. He said that in the pre-modern world, we viewed psychology as part of a natural ecosystem. A person fills their soul with culture, religion, and spiritual protections against demonic influence or mind viruses. Modernity believes in the buffered personality, or that all humans are rational, independent units which study the world objectively and then make calculated decisions from that. The modern science, as well as the folk wisdom from all of history, completely disagrees. Humans are crazy monkeys who need society and religion to hold them accountable against their own madness. This establishes a major psychological feedback loop in modern thinking, which ultimately dooms it. Since people are innately good and rational, thus the things they think also should be good and rational. This makes it physically impossible to modernity be able to introspect on its own flaws. Carl Jung has spoken a lot about how our own internal mental worlds are reflected out into the outside world. An easy example of this is architecture, where in the same way you can see a little window into someone's soul from the interior decorations they put in their house, you can do so for the type of architecture a civilization builds with. If we are judging ourselves by our culture, our society is completely suicidal. Our society's culture unironically refuses to not put out content that believes in anything. All the art the mainstream makes looks legitimately demonic now. We've stopped having the ability to make new art, rehashing the intellectual properties of generations ago. Our buildings look—
I would say the only exception on this list that I've seen is Inside Out 2. I actually watched this movie, and boy, does it help with actually understanding the psychology behind the emotions that we have. I haven't seen the first one. I hear the first one's good, but this second one is absolutely amazing. I saw Deadpool Wolverine as well. I thought it was just a funny kind of movie. I don't think it was so funny it deserves number 2, but I'm pretty sure like maybe these other ones aren't as crazy. I saw Kingdom of Planet of the Apes. I thought it was all right. Bad Boys Ride or Die. That was actually some funny shit. That was pretty cool. I haven't seen Dune, Despicable Me. I haven't seen any of these.
New art.
Y'all let me know what y'all think about these movies on this list, because I don't know. Inside Out 2, though, I would say is absolutely amazing and brilliant, and it actually helps with emotional development and understanding emotional development.
Rehashing the intellectual properties of generations ago. Our buildings look completely soulless and inhuman. There's no place for the human soul.
That's the projects,
in our
bro.
Society. This is the complication. If someone were to ask me, Rudyard, what would we need to pull our civilization back from suicide? Is it material or psychological? The short answer, as I said earlier, is yes. In that we have to make material changes to our society so we're less lonely, poor, angry, and directionless.
Absolutely.
However, I believe the first step is psychological and philosophical, given if we don't have a direction to aim towards, all the material improvements we attempt will be aimless and will fail naturally. This video is not meant to heal our entire civilization. I'm just making a start. And I have this channel. I'll be here. I'm going to keep making videos on this topic to hopefully improve it. And this is just the beginning of a series of of videos. However, back to EMDR, we have a series of psychological narratives which we implicitly hold on to, but of which we're often not even aware of. For example, most people with PTSD psychologically blame themselves for trauma that occurred to them. This is since PTSD happens when something traumatic that didn't even exist inside your mental frame occurs. Thus, your body is on alert as a way of trying to guess things that you don't know, which is impossible. The way you heal PTSD is to remove the belief that you are in power of things outside your control. I can't stress enough the point that you don't know who you are. The person you believe yourself to be is a press agent for your subconscious, whose role is to make you look good to others. Psychological studies have found time and time again where our minds are terrifyingly good at even deceiving ourselves. The book The Elephant in the Brain is incredible at explaining this topic. You are really your underlying assumptions, not the press narrative that you narrate to yourself and others. Lots of people in society today actually do hate themselves, although if you were to ask them, even completely blackout drunk, they would never say so. However, if you were to watch their actions, you would consistently find that they had self-defeating behaviors which overrode the smiley exterior. I think this is vastly more people than we realize. I worry it's a majority of our current population.
Really?
Every culture has a mythology, which is really the switchboard from which the society makes decisions. Destiny. Modernity struggles with understanding mythology, given it's too indirect and that mythology is almost like a video game, which both tells you what the map of the world is, and also the best strategies for playing the game. For example, Western civilization has pulled from Greek and Nordic mythology alongside the Abrahamic tradition. Over Western history, people have looked back to King Arthur, Solomon, or Achilles as role models of behavior. When young men died at the Somme, they did so LARPing as Greeks fighting the Persians. Our society has completely restructured our own mythology, mostly around a combination of Marxism, Freudianism, and Hollywood. When we make decisions, we cross-reference it against those. I really can't overstate the importance of Hollywood, which is really the mythological circuit board I see Americans use the most in their value.
I know our society's mythology stems from Hollywood, given I am an American from Pennsylvania who also lived around the country, currently in Texas, let's go, and briefly in LA. I've worked in a variety of different states and I have picked up on the cultural differences. Basically, the mythology Hollywood pushes only speaks to Californians at this point. Really. I would say, furthermore, wealthy, lost LA people, I find almost none of their stuff they talk about I identifiable anymore. Wait, none of the stuff they talk about identified. I find almost none. Their moral code completely rejects history, religion, masculinity, the social hierarchy of competence, old aesthetics, among other things. Now, this part, I gotta pause it right here. I gotta pause it in the pause. You feel me? I gotta pause it when I'm reading it because I gotta pause it because I can't believe that shit. Like, even though it's most likely real, like, I don't doubt the validity of this claim. I just think that's insane. Like, how are you living then? How are you living if you're not, if, like, all of these things are what helps people develop themselves. And of course, you can definitely overdo it on many of these things. Masculinity, sure, you can definitely overdo it on masculinity. Religion, you could definitely overdo it on religion. If you don't know what it is, which way you're pointing, east, west, north, south, right? You can overdo it with many of these things, but they're not identifying with any of them. Like, that's mind blowing. Honestly, that is very mind blowing, man. Like, and social hierarchy, like, what? So who's running the show? Like, what? I don't know. I don't know. But okay, let's continue. It's one of the most feminine worldviews ever in history, which polarizes popularity, beauty, relationships, and emotion. It actively loathes heroism, meaning, and death. Wow. Huh. Well, good thing I don't live there, right? And this is one of those things that's like, if this is true, then why live there? Especially if you're aware of it, right? And you are opposed to this identity and this ideology. Why are you there? And if you are there because you want to make a change, you definitely going to need comrades. And like I am not shy to say, hey, we can change the world. We can make the world a better place. I honestly believe we can turn it around and make things better. Better for the people. Better for who? Right? but you're gonna need comrades, and that's what I've always told people. Every person that's had the idealization to try and fix society, I say go for it. I say we can do it together as a collective, as a team, as a group, as a society. We can make society better. 100%. This is not a joke. It is possible. You're just gonna need comrades. So comrades, rally together. Just like in Dark Souls, put down that summon sign and let's wait for them boys to show up and let's go ahead and beat the bad. I think it's possible. But yeah, this is interesting.
System. This is something that's so deep, I need to make a video just on it. But here's a text wall if you're interested.
Yeah,
I've been meaning to make a video, I guess, on Californian civilization, if you want to call it that. But there's been 2 books on that topic I've been postponing reading for a while. The really key problem here is that in our current mythology, we lose by definition. The left very purposely structured our entire worldview to be a spider's web where we lose by structure no matter what we do. An example of that is that in our current social structure, if you're not successful, you're a loser. But if you are successful, you're also bad in the leftist worldview. If you're a white person and you choose to indulge in other cultures, that's racist, being cultural appropriation. And if you don't, that's also racist. If you move to a majority-minority area, that's gentrification. And if you move to a majority-white area, that's white flight.
Wow. So you guys definitely got the losing end of the deal. And I just got to ask, how has this come about, right? How has this happened, right? Because I'm a young soul, right? I'm a young soul, even though I'm pretty wise. I am pretty young. So how could it have gotten this bad, right? Is what I'm trying to get. Like, how has it gotten this bad this fast? Because I remember a point in time where white people were at the top. And now it seems like white people are just getting their ass beat in the street, man. It's kind of insane to see. But at the end of the day, I think we still all need to come together and try and form something and create something better. Because like we're all on the same team. We just got different colors of skin and different jerseys. Sometimes we legitimately have different jerseys, but we are still underneath the same umbrella. So I like regardless, I think we do still need to work together. Like, bro, things don't get better unless you communicate. So like, yes, we might have different ideologies. We might have different religions. We might have different backgrounds. We might have different skin color. We might have different we might speak the same language differently, right? People that speak English like this versus people that speak English like this. It's still speaking English. You're speaking English. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. So yeah, I think we still need to come together. Man, I would hope so. I'm the optimist, by the way.
Area, that's gentrification, and if you move to a majority white area, that's white flight. You can see here that the underlying reality is that our entire worldview was a matrix established in the last century to actively harm us.
100 years.
Our previous worldview, even though it was flawed, was made mostly by honest people who were compiling millennia of wisdom to try to help others. Meanwhile, the leftist materialist worldview was also made with that intention. However, their definition of helping people was completely destroying civilization. Keep in mind the leftist authors of the mid-20th century all publicly said this stuff. They wrote strategy books saying the purpose of their entire worldview was to weaken the old established order for the revolution.
They're programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their minds, even if you expose them to authentic information. Even if you prove that white is white and black is black, you still cannot change the basic perception of the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. KGB defector. Damn. So he basically is saying like everybody's perspective has been manipulated and shifted to a point that nobody can change it. Wow. And to be aware of this may make you more aware of yourself. But again, you would need the solitude because if you are constantly bombarded with other stimuli and other information, how could you ever get some time to yourself for yourself so you could figure out what it is that it is to be you, right? Because you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, right? You are something that is able to observe these things and then you can try and come to a conclusion to be whatever it is that you are. But even that is a persona. And that persona is not necessarily who you are, because you still have the shadow and you have the ego that's playing the part of who are we going to portray. So if you can work on your shadow, you can really work on your inner self, right? Because there's good and bad to all things in humanity. That being said, if you can't really figure out what it is to be good or bad, and good and bad is subjective as it is, even though people think that there are objective good and bads, those objective good and bads are subjective to other people. So it's still going to be subjective. It's a very interesting conundrum we found ourselves in, ladies and gentlemen. But again, I think it is possible for people to try and figure it out for themselves. They just need to have the opportunity to do so. And how can they get the opportunity if they're working 9 to 5s, if they're stuck looking at social media, right? So the game has definitely been rigged for you to fail. But being aware of the game being rigged for you to fail may allow you to understand that, hey, maybe I should no longer participate in this game. But they do want to push the game into a world scale where nobody can escape the game. Again, we need to rise up. This is not a joke.
Through a process of social alienation. Read or listen to Solid.
The highest art of warfare is not to fight at all, but to subvert anything of value in the country of your enemy until such time that the perception of reality of your enemy is screwed up to such an extent that he does not perceive you as an enemy. Wow. You can take your enemy without a single shot being fired. Yuri Bezmenov, former KGB agent. And he's an agent, right? So somebody had to teach him this. So who taught him this shit? Yeah, that's crazy.
Alinsky, Yuri Bezmenov, Gramsci, or even what Marx openly said.
Thank you for saying the name right.
These authors openly said that they were trying to destroy religion and community trust, often saying they wanted to have a bureaucrat so that neighbors couldn't talk to each other or friends couldn't make deals, and everything had to be structured through a bureaucrat to weaken the society so the communists would win. They said that religion was their greatest enemy and they had to destroy it at all costs. We've been trapped in a spider's web where the left will win the game because they made the game. The more the right wriggles inside the leftist paradigm, the more we lose and get trapped in the web. Religions are a form of hypnotic seduction. I say this since hypnosis is an altered psychological state, which changes how you psychologically perceive the world. You can only be hypnotized if you want to be, and hypnosis therapy is pretty effective at rewiring subconscious assumptions. You can tap into underlying neurological assumptions through hypnosis. Hell, EMDR is a form of hypnosis. Certain priest classes for certain religions are hypnotic worldviews which completely change how you perceive reality itself on any level. It's almost as if religion enters your own eyes, and when you see the world, you see a different universe than someone else. This is where my idea of shattering the glass comes from. I came to realize that the left has developed a mental ecosystem where they win by their own definition. By acknowledging any of the left's underlying realities, we gradually let them hypnotize and seduce us. If you can't win a game, break the game or play a different game. The mind is a living organism, and you need to refuse to take in mental thought viruses that actively harm you. When I say shatter the glass, I mean to completely shatter the old paradigm. I think the old paradigm is wrong on a very deep level, and I wrote 12 different incorrect assumptions which we need to rewire in order for us to survive. I didn't have to be the person who did this, but as my father would say, if no one in the room is doing the right thing, that makes it your duty. To be very clear, if
that is a very, very wise father, and thank you for sharing that wisdom.
We can't rewire these assumptions. We are completely doomed, since our psychological ecosystem is so biased towards nihilism that any good things will be wasted. I take responsibility for this shattering. If bad things come from this, it's my fault. I did it since it had to be done. These are the 12 underlying assumptions I think we need to alter to survive. Let's go through each. Number one, we determine reality, changed to we submit it to reality. This one should be
This is
completely
interesting.
self-explanatory. The most basal level of reality is that you don't get to control the world. We all submit to forces vastly more powerful than us. Even the most powerful people in human history were completely powerless compared to the natural forces which constrain them. This is also the first principle which you need to understand for all the others to make sense. Without reality, there's no way to orient yourself since there's no arbitration method to deal with the world itself. In school, I had to read an article that said if we socialized women, they would be as good basketball players as men. That's insane. We constantly deny reality, whether by ignoring scarcity, genetic, or sexual differences. Our entire paradigm is the denial of reality. Trans is the easiest example. I hope you can see what the issue here is. The problem is that most people in the West somehow don't believe this. If you studied the underlying philosophic assumptions of our society, they would come across as insane. The left in postmodernism thinks that power relations determine reality. There are other varieties of this with eugenics,
I might have to
tech
check this
worship,
out.
and market worship. In each case, they think that innovation means humans are no longer beholden to reality.
People's underlying substructures are very important and determine their entire worldview. We don't examine these at all. Gnosticism is an example where the left's idea that human nature is innately good, which can only realize when we fully embrace it. That's true. Can only stem from Gnosticism, given Gnosticism is a religion, which holds the view theo- theologically, effectively, that we exist in a crooked world in which once we embrace our own innate goodness, we can finally break out of the evil suffering of the world. Leftist thinkers pulled very heavily on Gnosticism while they were fonding the left, giving they needed a philosophical justification on a metaphysical basis. That's very interesting. That's very interesting indeed. Huh. Well, I mean, when I think about it, right? Because Plato, he wanted to create a civilization or a society where people at the top were philosophers, but the people at the top were never allowed to own private property, right? If you're not allowed to own private property, but you're at the top of the society, that should balance out the greed and stuff like that. And the point of the whole society, right? Because there's more structures to it. There's the working class, and then there's the middle ground, right? And then there's the people at the top, which are philosophers, which is like, oh, ironic, the philosopher wants to be at the top. But again, that's how the balance would be. Hey, they don't own anything privately. Everything is commutative, right? But even in that society, you'd have to lose a lot of your individuality for the group, right? And that would combat a lot of the greed. Is like, hey, we are all working together. But yes, you are going to lose your individuality for this to happen, right? I mean, it's definitely an interesting objective because you are legitimately saying, hey, humans are good. So let's get rid of everything that can make us bad. And to do that, again, you would have to sacrifice a lot of individuality for the collective. But we are social creatures, right? A lot of people can do it on their own. But you like the saying that I love to subscribe to is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I honestly believe people need to legitimately start looking around and start saying, these are the people that I want to go far with, right? You are the sum of five people. But just because you're the sum of five people, you should realize that those people are also the sum of five people. And those five people don't necessarily mean just you five. It could be you being an influence on somebody else who has another four people around them. And you are just part of that collective. And all together, you come together to make a society or a whatever clan, group, whatever you want to call it. And in theory, it'll be amazing because you have individually worked on yourself to be part of the collective. And in turn, these people should have done the same thing, getting rid of the greed and the individuality and all these things that innately could cause corruption if humans are innately good, which is it's a very, very interesting. Like I'd be down to try it. Like your boy KhunShawn, I'd be down to. Hey, if anybody want to put me in their top five starting five lineup, hey, hit your boy up. Hit me up on Medium. Hit me up on Blue Sky. Hit me up on Discord. Link in the description. Let me know.
Most people in the West believe some variety of this myth, which ultimately stems from the ancient religion Gnosticism,
Cheers.
as I explained in this text wall. Number 2, nothing is enough to everything is just what it is.
Nothing is enough change to everything is just what it is. Or everything is what it is. Everything just is. That's true.
I alluded to
It's how you look at it.
this before, but we live in the wealthiest, most secure, hygienic, one of the freest and most permissive societies ever. If we
Absolutely.
were rational, we would be infinitely grateful for this. But it's clear that's
Absolutely.
not the case. The great irony is that the best off society ever was also the most dissatisfied ever. As I said before, we're tearing our entire civilization down, committing effective suicide due to self-loathing. I'm not saying there aren't problems, but we should at least be grateful for the things our society does. This sort of attitude, first of all, promulgates nihilism, since we never feel satisfied with what we accomplish, and thus we don't accomplish anything. This also enables the worst demographic in history, or the most envious and petty. This attitude is also just the most spoiled brat behavior imaginable. The founders of the modern Anglo-American order were some of the most humane, intelligent, enlightened people who have ever lived, and the fact that their main criticism is that they didn't go far enough is a moral sin of the highest level committed by our society. Those who make this criticism are the most entitled people who have ever lived. For example, Europe,
which would make sense because, again, they live in a place that has gave them the ability to do whatever it is that they want to do, but for some reason there's something that stopped them, and then that has trickled into, oh, it's this person or that person, or it's this thing or it's that thing, which could legitimately be true. There might be things holding you down, but you, my friend, are a human being, and the only thing really holding you down is yourself. You could be thrown in jail. That doesn't mean your life is over. What you do with that time in jail determines a lot. And I'm not saying you guys should sign yourselves up to go to jail, but there's been many influential people that have gone to jail and said it's one of the greatest experiences that they've gone through, and they grew from it, right? It's the obstacle. That's the challenge. But once you get over that obstacle, you become a stronger human being. But to accept that there is a challenge is to really prove, do you have what it takes to be the person that you think you say you are, right? You think that you say you are, not that you are or that you think you are. You think and you say that you are this person, you are this individual. This is what I'm about. This is what I got going on in my life. Well, you also have to walk the talk, as they say. When a challenge appears, it doesn't mean, oh, the challenge is here, I don't like it, or it's too hard, or it's unfair, or whatever. It's honestly how you look at it, legitimately. And I've had to face a lot of challenges in my life. And I continue to embrace more challenges that appear before me, because if it's a challenge, we'll take it on. What else are you going to do? Complain or cry about it? That's how you become entitled. Like, I'm living in this cush-ass environment. I'm about to get out of it so I can embrace what it is to be in the unknown even more. But for others, they're scared. They're upset if something delays them. Like if they go to Starbucks and somebody's taking too long to order, that person's taking too long. They're ruining my day. How? How, bro? Like that's literally all in your mind. Nobody is ruining your day. Sure, they might be inconveniencing you. Well, instead of thinking about your order so much, take that time to reflect or do something else. You could legitimately or you could leave and go to a different coffee shop, bro. Like, come on. Like, come on, man. Like, hit the like button, bro.
Peacefully gave up on its colonial empires after World War II. This is such a stunningly generous act that it's historically unbelievable. However, the main criticism is that they didn't go further enough, which is legitimately insane. What do these people really want? If they can't answer that question, their life is just wandering through a marsh without a way out. No matter what we accomplish, we're judged by the eye of an impossible utopia. This is the cruelest thing you can do to a person, since it denies their personhood and the validity of their existence. We've gone past the intellectual point where we believe the West is at all psychologically redeemable. Our culture wants to solve this by suicide, which is the most nihilistic and evil way possible.
What a great idea. I mean, I mean, everything we work towards, let's just throw it away. I'm pretty sure that'll help everything.
The real answer is that things are just what they are. Everyone has space for improvement, but I don't want to crap on Eritrea for being one of the poorest countries in the world. They have their problems and we have ours.
Everybody
the
has
only way
problems.
to not go insane is to take and love things for where they're at. Then you're happy when they improve, since it's rare. 3. The world is dead to the world is alive. This is one of those things that people assume is an actual philosophic argument, but it's really just a matter of perspective. I just finished reading an interesting book, The Disenchantment of the World by Storm.
I hear this is a good
one. It
one.
argues that everyone who wrote about disenchantment, or the idea that the world is a boring, controlled place without spirits or drama or magic, were people who themselves studied the occult and magic and were trying to seduce the public with their own paradigm, ironically, magically.
Shit. Magic is real, bro. Like, bro, people do some amazing things in this world. And if you just don't want to believe it, cool. That doesn't stop anybody else from believing it. And if anything, learning it and then using it, right? Just because you don't believe it's real doesn't mean it's not real to other people. That is how perception works. Anyways, I apologize if this is too schizophrenic for you guys. However, basically every major materialist author who people use to argue for pure materialism or mechanism themselves believed in the occult and practiced it. Examples of this include Marx, Freud, Isaac Newton, Descartes, Leibniz, Spinoza, Charles Darwin, Marie Curie, Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla. All of these people studied the occult, and all of the look, bro. All of these names are people that other human beings hold in high regard as somebody that has done something to contribute to society, life, and the human existence. And they all studied the occult. And you want to sit and say that it's not real. Okay. I said, okay. Each of these figures believed in the spirit world and the occult, often practicing it themselves. What the book suggests is the idea of disenchantment is itself a form of enchantment or a meta myth which was shoved onto the world from self-interest. So basically, to make it even more digestible and understandable, basically people that believe in magic make magic happen, and people that don't believe in magic are actively casting a magical spell on themselves to not believe in magic. You don't believe in magic because you don't believe in magic. Magic isn't real to you because you do not believe in it. So since you do not believe in magic, for you, magic does not exist. But for people that you look up to, they believed and practiced magic. They believed and practiced it. And it worked for them to the point where you are looking at them and saying, this is the real deal Holyfield. But you're not going to take the practices that they used because you do not believe in it. And what does that give you? That gives you an equation of you're not gaining, but you are trying to absorb through somebody else's experiences without going through said experience. This is legitimately a guide on how you can make yourself and make whatever a thing, right? It's one thing to read the books from somebody. It's another thing to read the books and say, let me actually try what they did and see what that does for me. But I'm the type of guy that does it. Like where is it? Damn, I don't have my book in here. I like reading Becoming Supernatural from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Absolutely amazing book. And I actually do the practices that he has in the book and other books as well. I have more books back there that I've practiced and I've looked at. Because why not? The only thing stopping you from absorbing knowledge is yourself. And if you are able to open your mind, I don't believe that's hocus pocus. Like, okay, sure, it's hocus pocus, but why not check it out anyway? Well, you got something better else to do? Well, you're going to check your Instagram again and check the same 5 notifications? What else are you going to do with your time? We all have time. We all have it. So use it for maybe something new, maybe something you never expected, because maybe it'll give you a different result in your life, which is what a lot of people are looking for when they're reading shit from these people. You're reading it from Karl Marx, you're reading from Freud, you're reading from Isaac Newton, you're reading from all these people, but you're not actually practicing the things that they have written in their studies. You're just reading it and just like, oh, wow, this is so cool. And it's like, yeah, bro, this could be you. if you actually put it into practice, if you wanted to put it into practice, but you think it's hocus pocus, you think it's not real. It's since you think it's not real, in turn, it is not real. What is reality? What is real?
To seduce the public with their own paradigm, ironically, magically. It's pretty clear the more that you see that the world is a spectacular, beautiful place.
It
We have the
is
Amazon rainforest, Alexander
beautiful.
the Great, the city of Istanbul, Komodo dragons, and so many other
Absolutely.
things. American politics today is more interesting than Game of Thrones. While we've made incredibly powerful genies or AIs which give us wisdom, the world
Yes, we've literally made genies from Aladdin, except instead of wishes, like you ask it any question, it can give you an answer. If you're feeling some type of way, it can tell you anything. This isn't a purely spirit world argument, although I do believe in the spirit world. Rather than even if you don't believe in the spirit world, you could agree that the world is innately mysterious, beautiful, and dramatic. Even from a purely secular viewpoint, Alexander the Great, Napoleon discovered the New World, or the founding of the world religions are even of such spectacular wonders. So, as to all, you to your core, however, the managerial class believes that life has innately nothing dramatic or awesome truly worth respecting. This argument can have no real defense, given it operates out of pure nihilism with nothing else. So, if you're nihilistic and you don't believe in anything and you think the world sucks, well, there is no outside force that is going to confirm that the world does not suck. Like, if you think life sucks, I could take you on a private jet across the world. We could go to an amazing island and you'll still find a flaw with it because that's just what you're living through at the current moment with your nihilistic worldview, right? And I don't subscribe to nihilism. I've been inside of nihilism, and I think every person that strives to become a higher human being, right, when it comes to consciousness or openness or understanding and just in general, you eventually will come across nihilism because it's so easy to fall into it, right? The world has no meaning. The world is terrible, blah, blah, blah. Yes, the world has no meaning. That's when you put meaning into it, whatever it is that you enjoy doing in this life. This is something you pursue, and it's not necessarily one thing. You can do many things. You can pick something up and try it. And if you like it, you can continue it. And it doesn't mean that's the only thing you have to focus on. You can do so many different things. And of course, you can put any excuse that you want to, legitimate, any excuse you want to. And guess what happens? You put an excuse, well, hey, I guess you're not going to do it. And if you're not going to do it, okay, well, then that's your life, brother. That is your life. You choose not to do anything with the life that you have. That is a you thing. That is a you issue. But you can get past it because I've been through it. I've been nihilistic before. I've been, oh man, the world sucks. Nobody cares about me. And nobody reaches out. Nobody cares. Oh, I should just end it all. Nobody cares about me. Blase, blase. And it's like, maybe that's true. Maybe nobody does care about you. That's when you care about yourself, bucko. That's when you look inside yourself like, okay, what is it that makes me special? What is it that makes me great? And this is something it's hard to do on your own, man. And I believe stuff like this behind me is what has led to this progression. Stuff like Naruto, stuff like anime, right? These cartoons that actually inspire hope because the underlying message is to never give up. Even in the face of a society not liking you for who you are, you can still become great because greatness shines no matter what. At the end of the day, whatever it is that you firmly believe in to be true will be true to you. But for outward expression and outward appearance, it's going to be shown. If you're a nihilistic person, people can see it on you. People can interact with you and you bring down the vibe. If you're somebody that figures out what it is to be you, people can see this. People can understand this. Body language exists. For a long time, humans didn't talk. We had this. Right? We had body language. So I would say instead of being so close minded, open it up and expand and try something new. And I also do the same thing. I will check out books, I will check out videos, I will check out texts of stuff that I don't know about. Or sometimes I'll check out stuff that maybe I don't particularly agree with, but I will look at it just to say that I have looked at it and check it out, give it a try. And if it's not for me, it's not for me. Just like if it's not for you, it's not for you. But nihilism, honestly, I think the point of nihilism, personally speaking, and this ain't necessarily true, but I think the point of nihilism is to understand it and get past it. To say, yes, life has no meaning. Now what? Give up. I mean, you could give up if you want to. What does that change? Right? Giving up does not change anything. What happens if you give up and then you get a restart on a life, but it's actually worse? So you just made life worse on a give up versus just continuing and seeing what actually ends. What is your path? Does it end in something amazing or does it end in a tragic accident? I mean, who knows? Nobody knows. Everybody says we have hopes and dreams, but to pursue the journey, I think, is where the real wisdom lies. To continue whatever it is to be you, to explore this to its eventual end, because it will eventually end. So why are you trying to speed run the ending, bro? Just let it end naturally, brother. But that's just my opinion. Again, I'm the optimist. Maybe it's positivity, toxic positivity. He's too positive. Bro, I've never seen anybody become successful from being negative. And that's all I have to say.
The world we live in is more wonderful than anything that we could possibly imagine. However, we never look at this and pretend the world is a sterile, controlled place. We're living after the end of history. This is a completely
Oh, my bad. Let me read this. Spiritual world. Oh, wait, I did read
sterile,
this.
controlled place. We're living after the end of history. This is a completely arbitrary distinction built off our addiction to power. If the world is a place capable of being controlled and mastered by us, it's dead.
It should be mastered by
we
me,
neurologically
as they say.
completely differently responds to living and dead things. By treating the world as dead, there's nothing worth living for. The reality is the world is not dead mechanistic materia, but is an interactive system we have to actively engage with.
Okay, this is an important detail given the neurological processing which we associate with living matter acts as if the person you're talking to is someone you are with, not someone you're acting on. Slavery is a moral crime, giving it treats human living things as if they're soulless machines. The point here is trying to convey is that if we're a society where we process the entire world as a dead phenomena, we exert power over, then the world itself lacks any of the innate vitality or energy that makes life worth living. A world where the only story worth telling is a growth of our scientific abilities for their own sake is one we're killing ourselves so we don't have to bear. What did JC Denton say in Deus Ex? He was like, what a shame. What did he say? It's like what a terrible way to die or something like that.
Mechanistic materia, but is an interactive system we have to actively engage with. This is why hacks for the stock market or dating system don't work long term, since the system is capable of responding to shortcuts. This is why every generation must battle against the world, since the set of our story actively changes before our own eyes, changing as
absolutely.
we change it.
It's always
History
changing.
isn't
Yes,
even close to over. Life will
of course
always
not.
be a struggle and adventure. 4,
Absolutely.
we are soulless blank slates, changed to we all have unique souls.
We
The
do all
founding
have
myth
unique
of our current
souls.
civilization is that all humans are interchangeable blank slates, which are completely molded by social engineering. The best example of this is trans, which exists in direct opposition to the most fundamental duality of human nature, that being the masculine and the feminine. We could briefly survive without the nation, class, or religion, but once you mess up biological sex, the human race is extinct. I talk about this theme more so in my video on the anthropology of the left, and that every assumption of our society.
Bro has made so many videos, and this is just the compounding video of every single piece of research that he is dove into. Absolutely amazing, amazing, amazing.
Ultimately leads back to the blank slate as a master key. It also explains why the left has declared war on human life between religion, community, sex, class, the nation, art, philosophy, and other organic living human cultures.
As I like to say, man, you're a left until you're a right. right? Because that's how liberal and conservative works. Conservative is, hey, this is how it works. This is how it's worked before. And then you're a liberal. You want progression, progression, progression until you get what you want. And then eventually it starts progressing because that is the point. It keeps progressing. And then eventually you're going to be like, hey, that's too far. And then you become a right. Like, and that's just legitimately how I've seen it happen, how it's played out for myself, how it's played out for many of my friends. And it's not to say that the right is always correct or conservative views are always correct, right? There's always an update that needs to happen, right? Imagine playing the same game for 500 years. You don't think that shit gets stale after a bit? You don't think we need patch 1.5, 2.3, 3.4, right? But eventually you update it so much, it's no longer the same game that it used to be. And that could be a good or a bad thing depending on when you got in on the update, right? So you're left until you're right. And then when you become a right, you're trying to conserve what it is to have what it is that you actually enjoyed or wanted. And the left, I mean, the point of the left is to keep progressing into something. And it might not be something that you enjoy. So yeah, I knew this video was going to be amazing. Hey, if this is your first time to my channel and you're watching it at the 1 hour and 8 minute mark, thank you. I greatly appreciate you guys watching this long. I didn't expect this video to get this long. But hey, if you really want to support your boy, you could join the YouTube membership. True. Or you could buy something that's more physical, like this candle that smells absolutely amazing, like apple cinnamon. I love doing this like plug for like scents and stuff. I like tangible things like soaps and stuff like this. But let's continue the video. Thanks for watching.
Ending the nation through immigration is blank slate personified. This is pretty ironic given the blank slate has been disproven for over a decade by mountains of scientific evidence and research.
So why are we still talking about it?
In the sciences acknowledge that at least half of human behavior on a very anal level with stuff like how fast you drive, your political affiliation, how cilantro tastes, and vacation locations are genetic. Everyone in genetic science at this point knows there are significant genetic differences across race, sex, ethnicity, and class. The question is just how much. This is a video I made which talks about this more. This is a nuclear bomb which will completely destroy the foundations of our society once we realize it. There is freedom here, and that the blank slate ultimately leads to totalitarianism, since once you think human nature is perfectible, it then becomes the responsibility or duty of the ruling class to do so. If we remove the blank slate, we remove their fodder, since giving authority to fallible human nature will obviously backfire. Number 5, everyone is equal to change to some are better than others. Most of these aren't actual arguments, but are basically faith-based claims masquerading as scientific or rational. It's impossible to prove that people are equal since it's so obviously not true. The only way it makes sense is by
Bro, I was not expecting to see a photo of Little Xan and a photo of Napoleon, and I got both of them on the same freaking slide. This is absolutely wild, bro.
Taking a blank slatist argument, which we know isn't true. How is Napoleon in any way equal to the rapper Lil Xanax? The story of human history is the story of inequality.
Lil Xanax, bro.
Hell, capitalism's enormous success suggests that the most powerful force in human nature is the unequal pursuit for status. The idea of equality sounds nice on paper, but in reality has disastrous consequences. Something pre-industrial authors reaching back to the Greeks were very aware of. The thing the founding fathers were most worried about with the rise of the new American Republic was ideas of equality, enabling envy, and mob rule. This was since they had studied the parallels to Greco-Roman civilization earlier, where their failed democracies occurred for that reason. The founding fathers were able to predict socialism a century in advance due to said ancient parallels. What equality ultimately aims at is the tearing down of the great, since that's the easiest thing to do, rather than increasing the lows to higher levels. When you see a government championing equality, what you really see is the elite allying with the mob against the vigorous, given it's in the shared self-interest due to self-preservation for the elite and envy from the mob. This is what killed Europe as it elected socialist governments in the early 20th century, which destroyed Europe's global competitivity for the century after. Keep in mind, this was after 500 years where Europe completely dominated the world in any single trait. This is a tale as old as time, seen, as said before, in the classical era, medieval Asia, Latin America, or with modern wokeness, as I explained in this text wall. This is medieval Asia.
Example of equality destroying society, 20th century Europe. After the World Wars, Europe elected socialist government, which created regulations which destroyed Europe's preeminence in any given field over that century. Ancient Greek and Rome, Greece and Rome both had socialist governments seize power, which regulated the economies so that those societies decayed. Latin America has consistently been more left wing than North America. This makes business nigh impossible. Medieval Asia. In 1000 AD, Asia was the wealthiest place in the world. Starting then, the government allied with social conservatives in order to regulate the economies into decay. This occurred in both Islam, China, and India, while the West rose to global dominance. So there is definitely a pattern of this happening. Why do we keep doing it? And of course, like the answer would be like misinformation, disinformation, people taking the power, and people being spoiled and angry. Right? There's definitely multiple answers to this equation. It's very interesting. Sorry, I'm getting a bit tired because this is a very, very long video, but I do enjoy it. Let's go.
Asia,
Let's continue.
Latin America, or with modern wokeness, as I explained in this text wall. This is not to say equality is useless.
Equality can have social effects as disastrous as equality. Let's look at South Africa, the most unequal society on the planet. It also has the world's highest murder rate. Holy shit. Enormous social issues and is on the verge of state breakdown. We've consistently found with studies that is basically just common sense that when inequality hits a certain threshold, society breaks down. You see increasing political polarization, social disaffection, breakdown in social trust, social mobility, and other things. A super unequal society will gradually devolve into an arrogant and detached upper class, which dominates a dehumanized, slavish, hopeless underclass. Look at Latin America as an example where this worked. But man, this is crazy. So we do need more philosopher kings, as Plato stated. We need more philosophers in power, because if you have power and you don't own private property, there's a less chance of you falling into the corruption versus you're wealthy and you're whatever, but you're also having private property and you're going to eventually start looking at people as objects because you're just going to keep wanting it your way, your way, your way. And who's going to stop you until they rise up? Rise up.
Equality can have equally
crazy,
negative
bro.
effects, which I
It's crazy.
That's
history.
Like men and women, or employers and employees, these two principles exist in critical tension where you need to enable their strengths but not activate their weaknesses through cooperation. Latin America is an example of both elitism and communism failing, while capitalism does a good job of coordinating through consensual cooperation. Number 6, the downtrodden are morally good, changed to success and morality are completely different axes. This is an idea that stems indirectly from equality. Basically, in order to have the idea of equality to psychologically balance out, you have to make the lessers morally superior and the inferiors superior. Allying the have-nots is also just the left's evolutionary strategy to get power. What I'd say is that all of these theories immediately fall apart under pressure. An example is I feel comfortable saying America is morally superior to the Taliban, even if we have issues. Most countries in the Middle East would rather be conquered by America than the Taliban, even if the Taliban are culturally and religiously closer to them. I don't think there's much of a relationship between status and morality. I think the higher status tend to be more competent in general as an imperfect rule, since they needed competence either to achieve or maintain dominance. A lot of this is just completely dependent on context, in which certain ecosystems reward good behavior to rise in status, like democracies, while others, like police states, actively reward negative behaviors. I just want to completely remove the discussion of morality from the discussion of greatness, as Nietzsche wanted to in the 19th century. Were the Romans the good or the bad guys? That depends on who you ask, but either way,
Absolutely.
everyone can agree that the Romans were excellent and incredible. Same thing with most empires or most things. Growing up, my father would say, don't go around the world looking for good or bad guys, since there often isn't a line, and there's often not a good guy. Number 7,
Huh.
progress is innate
That's
to
interesting.
we make progress happen. This
Huh.
one is an outgrowth of the idea that we've innately mastered the world, turning it into dead phenomena which we can
No, we have not
manipulate. This
mastered it
idea
yet.
stems from
No.
Hegel's idea of the
Ow.
dialectic, which in turn stems from the stunning technological, political, social, economic advances seen in Western civilization over the last 1,000 years since the Crusades. I can see on an civilization over the last
Let me see. Ancient Egyptians, fall of Rome, medieval, dark ages, Renaissance, age of enlightenment, technological revolution, modern, end of the Cold
thousand
World War.
years since the
End of
Crusades.
the
I
Cold
can
War.
see on an emotional basis why that would color someone's vision with the idea that progress is innate. We take progress so for granted that we assume
Absolutely.
a new change must be good or progress. However, this is one of those fish in a pond moments in which, if you look at any other data set, this is clearly not the case. We are clearly the exception, partly due to various good luck on Europe's part culturally or geographically, as well as the West having the most advanced concept of human nature, thus creating incredibly effective institutions. If you look at every other civilization ever, you have great leader creates empire, said empire decays, and then the barbarians burn everything down, then restart ad nauseum. This is how the Chinese, Indians, native Mexicans, Arabs, Babylonians, and even the Greeks or Romans saw time as cyclical. The reality is that history is more so like a double helix, which is a very
I see.
constant theme in mysticism around the world. It can appear
Absolutely.
either like a spiral or a line going up, depending on how you look. This
I can pretty easily explain what this cryptic symbolism on the US dollar means on a certain level. This pulls from Hermetic lore that's given many of the founding fathers were Masons. We know we're steeped in this. The triangle is a symbol for upwards, the spiritual progress, such as the reaching towards heaven. The circle, the circle is the symbolic for descending spiritual progress or integrating into the world. Western religious traditions prize the first and the Oriental the latter. The eye of symbolic and how perception and consciousness is the vector we use to attain this advanced consciousness. Consciousness is necessary for the future application of ideas into the material world. The Inuit cultus is he who is favored. Stems from how we need divine approval, and the Novus Ordo Scholarum, Schol- the Novus Ordo Seclorum is is the new age has begun. It wouldn't surprise me if related to the Hermetic idea that we can gain incredible divine power if we follow it. Well, absolutely. Absolutely. Like if you're going to follow power, yes, you will eventually come to have power, right? Like the closest way to become like successful, right? 'Cause successful is subjective, right? Your version of success is not going to be the same as somebody else's. That being said, if you want to become more successful, you align yourself or become in close proximity of people that are doing things that you enjoy doing, that you yourself would want to do. So if you want to be a movie star, you should definitely hang around people that are in movies, that are on sets, that are around directors. That is how you will become closer towards that specific goal of success. And when it comes to having spiritual power, spiritual alignment, stuff like this, yes, if you find yourself around people that are believing in these things, you will find yourself inevitably practicing these things. Like, yes, you are the sum of five people. And if you want to be around a specific group of people, right, you have one friend that's a CEO, you have one friend that's into hocus pocus, right, magical shit. You have a friend that's around that just loves instruments and loves music. You have somebody that loves cooking, right? And then you're the fifth person. What is it that you add that makes these other four people come around you, or you're around them? There's something there, right? You're the sum of five people. So yeah, absolutely, I could agree with this. It seems legit. Plus, I mean, it's there on the dollar. It's right there, bro.
This explains all the historic narratives in which, yes, there are repeated cycles in history, while at the same time, the total game does change. The thing is, the game does grow bigger and better, which is why the world is 8 times the population it did 200 years ago. As the game does get bigger and more complex, individual human lives get better in the course of a single lifetime, but get pushed back into hardship, since suffering is required for the impetus for continued progress.
Absolutely.
This suggests to me
Yes. To grow, you must suffer, right? Because when you suffer, you hopefully aren't nihilistic and give up, but you take this suffering and you reform and you rephrase it and you say, this is a challenge for me. And once you complete that challenge, congratulations, you have become a more strong, more wise, more adept individual. And then you take this knowledge and you hopefully share it. Hopefully, because knowledge gained and not shared is knowledge wasted, because who else knows about it besides you? And then when you eventually pass on, somebody else is going to eventually go through it. But if there was to be progress, you should definitely write it down and have it be shared. But that's just my perception and my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I love hearing what other people have to think. I don't know it all, right? For all I know nothing, which leaves me to have an open mind. Even though what I'm saying might be correct, I still would love to know what is it that somebody else thinks. This point of the natural equilibrium pushes us naturally back towards hardships. Seems pretty obvious since the global economy has grown by something like 20 times over the last 200 years, moving the average person vastly wealthier. However, the average person in the Western world still lives in poverty now than the Western governments are about to go bankrupt in masses. The irony is that if you look at historic patterns, global regimes crises occur every 250 years. We exactly fit this pattern with our crisis coming after the French Revolution. However, it's almost as if the Industrial Revolution never happened. If we can't if we can't learn to face hardship of our own accord, the biological system will keep using decadence to shove us back to a place where we do
meaning of life in some ways is structured on an
where we do
individual level in which
and this
you will be
ends where we do.
offered challenges that you have to take on as an individual in your generation, and your children have to continue with free will to make the decision to either take or leave responsibility for the situation. A great
Absolutely.
irony, and this is seen in psychological studies of narcissism, is that while we suffer from tremendous self-loathing, due to our ideas of progress, we are also absurdly arrogant, given we think we're so much more vastly superior to the rest of history.
Absolutely, man. What can be unburdened by what has been?
That we're not comparable at all. Self-loathing and arrogance are two sides of the same coin in a manner dignity and humility are. However, this is not a good combination for us. 8. Everything is material to we must accept natural law. This is again something that's basically a cyclical
Accepting natural law, man, that's tough for a lot of people.
argument. Empiricism is the idea that we measure things that we can physically see. I would say that I'm an empiricist in most ways, even though I have several non-empirical tendencies. I try to use an empirical analysis of history and seeing what does and doesn't work, without getting stuck in theories where your own sense of the world is controlled by the theory itself. However, one of the points we don't get in empiricism is that spiritual phenomena are some kind of empirical experience. We have billions of records of people having spiritual experiences, enough that every major civilization has been built off religion. If you really study the world empirically, you find that humans
Which one are you? Are you pointing up with Socrates or are you pointing down?
have lots of conscious experiences like drama, religion, philosophy, tradition, and other things, which are ideal things that don't exist in the physical world, but matter completely. Whether a nation can fulfill the abstract moral concept of justice determines almost every part of its society. Same thing with any moral concept.
When you look for a mate, you're not looking for an exact person. You look for a person who can fulfill abstract archi- archi- archetypal traits. The person who best fulfills the archetype wins. When you're looking for a mate, you're not looking for an exact person. You're looking for a person that can fulfill abstract archetypal traits. The person that achieves the traits will win. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, it's a different perspective. It's definitely a different way to look at it. And it's something that definitely makes sense. I could agree with this, definitely. Yeah, you're not looking for that one person. You're looking for the one person that can get these traits. But if you're looking for that one person that can get these traits, then that is the one person. But there is no one person. There are people because people have the traits that you're looking for when it comes to mating, right? Maybe you want a woman that looks very attractive, or maybe you want a woman that looks attractive and she's intelligent, or maybe you want that's attractive, intelligent, and is freaky, and does this and does that, right? But eventually, you got to also realize that as a man and as a woman, we're both trying to fulfill each other's needs and balance out each other in a relationship, which means you have to leave a bit of your autonomy, right? A bit of yourself has to leave for the relationship to actually work because you guys have to combine to create something new, which means you got to sacrifice a bit of the old to get some of the new. And it's not easy for a lot of people, for either the man or the woman or both, right? COVID showed a lot of people get divorced. COVID also showed a lot of people ended up falling in love. And then COVID ended and then they just left. They were like, okay, well, I'm done with you. Time to find something new, right? It's an interesting world we live in, man. That's all I'll say. Let's keep going.
Concept of how material matter must fulfill dualistic mating. The laws of the universe which reward and punish us, which you see consistently across history, and depending on how you want to frame things, you can either call the will of God or the laws of physics. The societies which follow
What's the
natural law,
difference?
such as maintaining freedom, honor, toughness, and inventiveness, beat those that don't. You can push this thesis to differing degrees, but it's clear the universe has abstract principles which don't exist on a material plane of existence. It's clear not all of reality is material, given through studying physics, we've consistently found that atom-to-atom movement has been incapable of predicting outcomes. And when we look at human psychology, we find religion, another non-material thing, is incredibly important.
Okay. Philosophical materialism is the argument that the only thing that exists is physical atoms we can touch. Basically, no one ever was purely materialist until the Industrial Revolution. Even ancient materialist thinkers like Epicurus and Aristotle still believed in spirits and gods. The irony is, no one actually advanced an argument for why we should believe only in the material. It just happened through osmosis during the 19th and 20th centuries. The problem is that in studying physics, we constantly find that materialism or atom to atom movement can't actually explain the world. This is why physics keeps on inventing various magical tools like string theory, dark matter, and dimensions, since they keep breaking their brains to explain things materially. So we should stop trying to look at the material as just the material. We should open up our minds more because that is the only way that has been proven to explain things. Because if you keep hitting your head at the wall, eventually you'll realize maybe I should look at this from a different perspective. Because maybe this different perspective can actually solve the answer to my equation. And for some reason, some people decide, nah, let me just keep hitting my head at the wall. Maybe it'll change some shit. And maybe maybe.
Another non-material thing is incredibly important. The pure materialist argument stems from us only looking at replicable phenomena. This is useful for law and manufacturing, but the actual human experience has too many things that aren't replicable. Emotions, religion, passion, love are things we can't leave out of our paradigm. Imagine if we could never see true love or love inside the lab unless we said it never existed. existed. This distinction is
Oh,
probably the
okay.
best argument for the separation of church and state. 9. There are easy answers changed to life is innately mysterious.
It
When
is.
people ask
Life
me,
is mysterious.
Rudyard, how did the Roman Empire fall? I like to jokingly say, depends on what your agenda wants it to be. I've seen convincing arguments that the Roman Empire fell due to moral degeneracy, population decline, changes in military structure, the rise of Christianity, elite issues, civilizational life cycles, and climate change.
That's a
Normally,
lot.
people pick whatever
Bro, especially like the last one, climate change. I wasn't expecting that one.
their current agenda is. I'm self-aware I do this in that I blame the exact same things that are killing our society today, such as moral degeneracy and population decline. I know that I'm doing it, and yet I still do it since I don't have a better answer yet. Human nature is funny. When you look
It sure
over
is.
history, you find dozens of brilliant philosophers who claim to have found revolutionary total truths. Plato, Confucius, Jesus, Muhammad, Marx, Rousseau, in that their ideas negated the ideas of other philosophers. However, were any of these figures proved really right or wrong? Of course, some ideas innately are more accurate at describing the world than others, which is why we can see by certain political philosophies working vastly better than others. But the water can get
Bro, this is one of the few paintings I've seen of somebody smiling. I like this. This is a nice smile.
pretty murky. For example, Marx is an example of a philosopher who got things really wrong. The philosophy he developed killed downwards of 100 million people with a retarded philosophy completely disconnected from nature. However, when he said, due to the psychological alienation of capitalism,
Hold on. Although I loathe him and have dedicated my life to dismantling his legacy, damn, okay, a certified Marxist hater, I'm going to give Karl Marx due credit where other righteous won't. And that's some real shit. He was absurdly intelligent. Firstly, he was able to predict, due to the psychological alienation of modernity and the Marx reaffirmed capitalism to previous systems, that the next few centuries would see the rise of socialism. Even though it was the most disastrous failure, socialists still run the world today, which means he was right. Oh, well, damn. Okay, cool. Secondly, he basically invented the modern concepts of class analysis, the moral structure of leftism, and using history to predict the future. Most bad philosophers can see a half truth completely, and that's where Marx is at. Holy shit, man. Bro, this is like the most polite diss to somebody you philosophically disagree with. Like, he's like, yeah, he got a point, but at least a broken clock is right twice a day, you know?
socialism was doomed to dominate the next 200 years as a lesson in world history before something else. That was brilliant. Even the figures who we would worship, like Christ or Aristotle, are still controversial figures, which very smart philosophers have denounced. No deep questions about life can really be answered. We can make a narrative to explain it to us, but it's completely unclear if that narrative is actually the fundamentally correct universal narrative. We're not even
Well, what is correct in the universe? You know, that question I just asked in itself is like, yeah, good luck figuring it. And if you can figure it out, that is just your perception of you figuring it out. It doesn't mean it necessarily is what it is, because perception is reality. It's easy to make casual narratives that can explain the world to you. It's nigh impossible to make the correct narrative for all time. Exactly. Like, bro, how? Each society has a theory that explains things to it. In medieval Europe, people were satisfied with the narrative God underlay everything. Modernity needs to see the exact causal mechanisms science occurs through. We have loads of narratives that are correct enough for society to work, but not technically right.
even clear how much of correct universal narratives there are in life. So we don't even know how to answer that question. We can just do what we have to do in this situation to get things to work. What's the purpose of life? How should we be happy? Are men or women better than the other? Why did France lose out to Britain in the 19th century? For each of these, you're wrestling with a living, dynamic idea. And you can get a pretty good answer, but there are no easy answers, only differingly imperfect ones, which which we have to make trade-offs for which is better. 10, life
Yeah, different perspectives. And then you have to pick and choose the pieces of each perspective to formulate something that might correlate with something that could be perceived as the best actual response.
has no meaning to we die without meaning. Our current society completely rejects meaning. We never talk about it and basically socially outcast or reject anyone who tries to talk about it. Our elite openly champions
Really?
nihilism. We never really have serious conversations about what we actually want out of life. And
Really?
postmodernism is literally a philosophy built off the rejection of meaning. It
Modern leftist postmodernism is not an active acceptance of others' way of life and narratives, but rather the active rejection of anyone who does not see the world nihilistically. They hate those who have narratives that give them any meaning apart from theirs. Well, where I come from, that's just called a hater. And there's haters everywhere, right? And if we can take this YouTube internet mentality and we can take it out into the real world, I think that could help a lot of people to realize when some people are trolling you IRL and when people are just hating on you because they're haters. Like legitimately, this sounds like some hater shit. This sounds like some certified hater shit. You hate that other people have some type of meaning in their life because you don't have meaning in yours. That is like the absolute antithesis of a hater, bro. And we ain't got time for haters. Keep living your life, everybody. Hit the
hates
like
those who
button.
have opposing grand narratives to nihilism. The irony is that we've consistently found through saw or studies in ancient wisdom that wealth isn't the most important thing for happiness by a
Of
long
course.
shot,
Of
and
course.
values or community are the most important variable.
Absolutely, man. Community is, bro, we're social creatures. You got to have some type of community, whether it's IRL, online, and hopefully a combination of both. But let me check this out. Studies plus ancient wisdoms. Saw shows the convergence between what 21st century science has found with the traditional folkway in world cultures that have existed for millennia as opposed to the 20th century. Interesting.
Happiness by a long shot, and values or community are the most important variable. This means that the breakdown of both are basically dooming factors for society. They're not side dishes, but the main course. For whatever reason, we need meaning to survive. I think this is more so a male trait, but I believe is still universally human. We literally die without meaning, and the societies that lose said meaning always collapse. This is just a fundamental reality of the world, and it's completely obvious that the removal of meaning has been negative to our societies.
I would say in hearing this, because I absolutely agree, and it's something that never really dawned on me until hearing it. We absolutely have a crisis, which is obvious. That's not the part I'm. What's obvious is that we legitimately need to have more conversations like these. We need to have conversations like these openly, which is, I'm glad I made this video, right? 1 hour and 39 minutes, because we are going to be facing times where more people and a lot more people are going to be feeling like their life has no meaning and they don't know what to do, which of course is a combination of the people in charge that have been saying they wanted to do this on top of automation that is going to get rid of a lot of people's purpose, because for some people, like, they have no purpose outside of their job. They feel like, ah, man, at least I got my career, I have my job, until it's thrown out with automation. And then what do you have? Right? You legitimately still have you. You have the ability to grow and still have the ability to form some type of identity. Right? But unless somebody is there to guide you, or unless you have a role model you aspire to be like, you will be lost. And in that lostness, you might fall into nihilism. And again, I think falling into nihilism is natural. It's getting past the nihilism is what helps you actually enlighten and achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. But a lot of people aren't going to be understanding or even conscious of this type of knowledge or wisdom because they have always just been doing the status quo, right? The people that wake up, go to work, go home, go to sleep, wake up, go to work, go home, go to sleep, and that is it. Those people and their conditioned into this life, that is their purpose because it's been programmed into them for that to be their purpose, even though we can all say that your purpose is not your career. Your purpose is not your job. Your purpose is not your title. Your purpose is whatever you put meaning into your purpose being. But you're not aware of that if your purpose was programmed into you to just be a worker. And look, bro, we have a John D. Rockefeller to thank for that bullshit, right? Because what he did has created this, and other people have combined together to make a compound of just bad vibes. That's the easiest way. It's a combination of bad vibes being stacked together and multiplied by X amounts. So how we combat this is by, because we all know, well, okay, if you don't know, one bad thing that happens to you can only be canceled out by four positive things. So you have to multiply and stack your positivity to cancel out the compounding negativity. So perfect example how to do that. You be happy with the things that you have in your life. You don't say, I'm gonna be happy when I get this. I'm gonna be happy when I got this much amount of money. You just be happy with what it is and be grateful for the things that you have now. If you're breathing right now, hey, you're winning. Like legitimately, shout out to Two Chains. He has a lyric, he has a bar before his song even starts. He said, if you woke up this morning, nigga, you winning. Absolutely. Because there's some people that didn't get to wake up today. If you open up your mind and be like, damn, I actually got to wake up today. I actually got to get out of bed. I got to listen to my favorite music. I got to see the people that I enjoy. And sure, you can again just be completely nihilistic and negative. I woke up today. I gotta go to a place I don't enjoy. Bro, there's still things you can do outside of that. You can still it's like life is a video game, right? Your main quest, if it is your main quest, would be to go to work. Sure, you could still side quest, bro. You could still as soon as you get off work, instead of going straight back home, you could just stop at a park and look at nature. Have your feet in the touch grass. Legitimately touching grass is good for humans, right? These are just compounding positive effects that you will need to do, because one bad action can only be canceled by four positive actions, right? So you're going to have to multiply these positivities, man. These positivity boosts legitimately help you. And if I'm helping you by giving you a bit of my energy, my uplifting, my positivity, hey, you're welcome. Hit the like button.
The greatest issue I believe Gen Z fails besides loneliness is existential nihilism. When we die, the thing we think about is, did we fulfill our meaning or our relationships? Not that we got rich or where we went on vacation. 11, we are rationally disconnected from the world to our minds are molded by our surroundings. One of the things I find stunningly ridiculous is that for decades, our society believed that depression was caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain, not stuff in the person's life. This is one of those things that's technically true in framing, but is completely ridiculous if you analyze it holistically. The thing is that the chemical imbalance is caused by your life being terrible. As we spoke about earlier, Johan Hari's book Lost Connections covers this really well. The idea that people would just magically have depression with no external environmental conditions starting it is just insane in retrospect. Alternately, the idea that you can completely separate someone from their ecosystem. Gen Z is in a worse economy, dating situation, political climate, they have crippling loneliness, meaning issues, and when they fail or get depressed, it's still their fault. They're being judged by a boomer standard to which they have nothing in common with. People are
People are judging you, yet they don't know what it is to be you. That's crazy.
Separated from their context, even though in reality, context determines nearly literally everything. We do a lot of other insanities due to this idea, which Charles Taylor calls the buffered personality. In medieval philosophy, our minds were seen as living organisms you should put good bacteria into in order to protect it against mind viruses. The Catholic Church was seen as a spiritual antibody protecting against demonic possession. The world was innately seen as a psychic, spiritual ideal place, since all things had spiritual charge that you had to relate through ceremony and tradition. We can see the inverse of this attitude today, in which all mental health issues need to be solved by therapy or rationally changing your own mind. The reality is people aren't rational, and religion or community are the things which do the best job at keeping people psychologically stable. We would never think this, since we never think of the human character of society. Instead, instead seeing us as a bunch of cogs. 12. Self-loathing is a virtue, changed to self-loathing is as bad as hubris. In my opinion, this is the most cancerous and satanic
Bro, I don't even know anybody that says self-loathing is a virtue. That definitely sounds like some evil shit. What?
thing our society does, which I
That's
can't get
weird.
past. In our culture, the more you loathe yourself, the more moral a person you are. White or
What?
Western majority
What? The more you hate yourself, the more you're a good person. What the fuck? This is some cult of the no, what? Bro, yeah, you legitimately have to be a slave to somebody to believe in this bullshit. Like, absolutely not, bro. Like, I am an open-minded individual. I'm open-minded enough to realize that's some bullshit. Reminder, we don't build like this anymore, even though this it's objectively better than our style since we hate our ancestors so much that we don't want even to live in their homes. Wait, so oh, brother, bro, you need bro. You what you need to do? Honestly, this is like some great ass advice, even though it's very unknown and very uncomfortable. Is to seek out some type of spiritual journey for yourself. Whatever type of spiritual journey you need to do, whether it's you need to go out into the desert for 5 days, take some water with you, take some snacks, of course. Or if you need to go meet a friend that is doing something and like you want to go hang out with them, like, yes, do whatever it is that can help you figure out yourself. Because, bro, this this ain't gonna help you, brother. Like, I'm a real ass motherfucker, right? I'm a real person to tell you that, hey, if you're listening to that, you're probably not going to end up alive. And of course, we're not all going to end alive, but you're going to end up dead faster than me.
things, which
And honestly, I would love to see you guys live. I would love to see you guys stay around and hang out, spread joy, love, positivity, and just keep it pushing, right? Keep battling your journey, right? I love battling. I love the journey. I love the challenge, right? Not everybody's like that. But this is worse than just not wanting challenge. This is some, I'm so bad, and not in a sexy way. This is like, I'm so bad that I'm so bad and I don't deserve to live. Bro, what? I don't get it. And it's not something for me to get. And if you're struggling, like legitimately struggling with this, reach out to somebody. Get some help. Because that is a battle that you most likely will not win on your own because this is basically you're about to give up. So please reach out to somebody and get some help because mental health is real. You definitely should talk to somebody about it. Real talk.
don't actively self-flagellate get torn down. The West is committing civilizational in real time. Even the most basic parts of our identity, between aesthetic, food, housing, school, and anything else, are being ripped up. There's some idea that this helps the downtrodden, but why? Making the rich hate themselves doesn't help the poor. In fact, it makes them worse off since
it makes them not want to help the poor.
Dependent on the others for society to work. The rich and poor need to be good at their social station for everyone to benefit. If white America falls apart, black America will be hurt more than the whites would be. I remember growing up, I learned to tear myself down in conversations, to not aspire to things or try to realize.
I remember I used to do the same thing, and it was more of a subconscious thing. Like when somebody praised me for doing something cool, I'm like, no. Like, bro, if somebody is giving you some type of praise because you did something honestly admirable, accept it because it's something that you did. You did something admirable, so no surprise, people are going to admire you for it. Now, that's one thing to acknowledge it, and there's another thing to be just self-satisfied in the glory of hearing other people give you praise. Those are two different things.
My full potential, since in school or in the culture, any sign of ambition or dedication was treated as elitism and arrogance. Even to try to be.
And again, those two things aren't the same thing. And I know what he's talking about. If you did something amazing today, congratulations, you celebrated. Little wins as well. If you went for a 10-minute walk and you didn't do one yesterday, congratulations, you went for a 10-minute walk. Walking is good for you. Let's go. Like, that is a win. Now, don't be like, oh, yeah, I went for a 10-minute walk. Man, I could walk better than everybody out here. Two different things.
Be more moral, smart, or successful is elitist in their worldview. This is a worldview which is dragging us all down to hell in real time. This
Legitimately.
nihilism is the most evil thing in history. I hold
Absolutely.
it as
I
worse than
agree.
even the bloodthirsty humanist utopianism in the last century, since even they liked growth in human.
During the Cold War, people would say when we were fighting the Soviets, but they loved their children too, as a play to show our innate shared humanity. The great irony is the wokes don't even like children. Real shit. In that they consistently talk about how they need to crash the birth rate and for degrowth. Go on woke social media and they consistently tear down others who have children or women who choose to be mothers. Again, this is some if you're an American and you're saying stuff like this, you are a loser, right? And I learned that go to an American and call them a loser, and that just shatters their worldview. But this is legitimate loser mentality. This is loser behavior because you're not trying to see somebody else win, which makes you a hater. And if you're a hater, you're a loser. These two things are the same thing. You're hating on somebody else's success. You're mad at yourself because maybe you didn't achieve that success. But if you're trying to compare your wins to somebody else's, you're going to innately make your life more miserable because comparison is the thief of joy. You cannot be happy with your accolades if you compare them to somebody else's. Every win counts. You need 4 wins to cancel out one bad. So you should definitely start stacking those wins so you can start turning the gears. Because I used to be cynical. I used to be not a narcissist, but I had narcissistic traits, right? Maybe I still have a bit of narcissism in me or egotism because you need to have a bit of ego to be on the internet, especially when you're in front of the camera, right? So I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh yeah, I'm so humble, I'm so modest, but I'm also not gonna sit here and say I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? There's a balance and there's a balance within everybody. But I think because I've been through it, if you start actually trying to become a better person, you can in turn become a better person. Celebrate other people's achievements, become nicer to people. Instead of talking, be an active listener, which is what I do for almost every single person I meet. Almost every single person I meet, I'm actively listening. And every time we finish with the conversation, they have something nice to say about me. And that means I'm not sitting here saying how nice my life is. I know my life is nice. I don't need to remind people about it. So I just listen to them and I'm talking about, okay, so let's talk about you. Oh, you got this going on? Great. You got a book coming out? I can't wait to read it. You're gonna make some videos. I can't wait to watch them. Right? Because I would want you to create. I would want you to aspire to become something more than what you are now. I would want you to level up and I want you to progress. Why? Because I would also love to progress. I am the friend I would want to have, right? Treat people the way that you want to be treated. This is a real phenomenon, right? You treat people the way you want to be treated, and in return, people will treat you the way you want to be treated because you're treating them the way that you want to be treated. And of course, it takes time. It takes wisdom to learn these things. These things are possible to learn. Again, I was nihilistic. I've been there. I've done that. I've seen this. I've experienced that. And what I've taken from each of these experiences is, bro, it never hurts to be positive. It never hurts to be positive. Never. Never, bro. So be more positive. And of course, it's, oh, just be positive. I've been there. I've heard people say the same thing, and I rolled my eyes like, oh, be positive. But being negative did not help my life. Being negative made my life worse. Being negative almost made me go back to the lobby multiple times. Being positive has never done that. So you tell me, what do you want to change in your equation? If nothing changes, nothing changes. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So change something in your life, guys. Do it for the positive. I think you can do it.
human life itself. What can I say about a movement that thinks having children is morally wrong and being a man makes you born into sin? Final, I hope you can see that this is exactly why we need to shatter the glass. I hope you can see how our society is being eaten alive by active evil. Once you see these things, you realize the hour is late and things are very, very urgent. When we see the issues in society today, they're the very tip of a very, very deep iceberg of social rot caused by pure nihilism. A society can't believe the things we do and succeed or be happy, or even fail honorably. These things are so cancerous we need to investigate and uproot them now. If we don't solve this now, this is only the beginning of something truly evil and dark. This level of nihilism, if allowed to percolate, will transform us into something truly evil, disgusting, and vast.
And that's why everywhere I go and every person I meet, I am positive. Because I am not fake positive, I am just positive. So in their presence, I stick to who I am, which is a positive person. For some, it's a breath of fresh air. For others, they're like, bro, why are you so positive? I'm positive because I'm happy. I'm happy because I love life. I love life because I love myself. I love myself because I acknowledge that I have flaws and I work to make these flaws more manageable as a human being.
Our people and our souls are at stake here. Everything we love is at stake. You could say I'm fear-mongering, but I believe all of this with complete sincerity. For the love of God and with all the power invested in me by myself, I will shatter this glass. I hope that what comes out of this, if anything, is better than what we have now. Peace.
I agree. This is one of the most beautiful videos I've ever had the experience of enjoying. This was, man, I'm not going to talk too much because I said a lot. I said a lot on the topic. But I will say, if you're new to this channel, you're, let me go back. I like this song. This is one of my favorite channels for background music. But yeah, Hyperdrive Boogie, check it out. But yeah, what if all his, man, this was an amazing, beautiful video. And honestly, to sit and react to it was perfect. Like, I was on my TV, it was recommended to me, and I was like, as soon as 5 seconds in, I was like, I gotta make a video on this. And I think this is one of the best videos that I've ever made in my career, in my life, period. Due to the wisdom and knowledge that I've gained from my mentors. You can check out my book coming out soon. It's called Energy Chimera. And you can learn how I became this, right? The person that is you see before you, and will continue to upgrade and change as time goes on. That is what it is to be an energy chimera, man. To understand and learn from multiple different perspectives, different people, different walks of life, and take the bits and pieces that work for you. And that's what I've done. And just watching this video alone, I think has elevated me to even another status. And I'm just sitting here watching a video. I'm interacting with the video. That's what it is. When you're interacting, when you're reacting, right? A lot of people, when it comes to reactions, it's just like expression. But this is also expression. Everything is expression. But to actually digest, add your own creativity, your own being and essence into the subject matter, I think so. That's what made this video very beautiful. But again, I couldn't have done it without Whatifalthist. So link in the description, check out Whatifalthist, check out his channel. I've checked out a couple videos already, maybe more to come, but these are definitely very powerful videos, very, very powerful videos. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Again, link down below, check out Whatifalthist and check out my product line. Okay, we got apple cinnamon candles, we got soaps, we got shower gel I got in my shower because I use it and it makes me smell so good. The ladies, they keep flocking. Okay, so if you're a man and you're stuck in nihilism, you're like, there's no ladies that like me. I'm not gonna lie, smelling good helps. Charisma also helps. Positivity helps. Being secure with who you are and your masculinity helps. But you can also find that information on this channel. So if you're new here, I would advise you to subscribe and then check out the playlist. More videos to come, of course, but check out the previous work because the previous work is also good. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. It's your boy KhunShawn. Comment, rate, subscribe, share it with your friends. Join the Discord down below and have a good day. Bye-bye.